Ready to get started? Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Is this on? Okay. I think most of you know me, but for those who don't, louder. For those of you who don't, my name's Anthea Letsu, and I'm the current director of the Molecular Biology program. I want to open this morning's memorial dedication, first of all, by thanking you all for joining us to honor the memories of 3 students, Josie Johnson, Mel Dennis, and Tyler Helmer, 3 PhD students at our university. I'm really pleased to see how this memorial space has developed, and I think it's going to serve as a really nice reminder for all of us of the special people that we lost in 2004. These are young people that we knew as classmates or as students, but most importantly, I think we all knew them as friends. We're going to have 3 speakers this morning who will each speak about their personal reflections on Josie and on Tyler and on Mel. But before yielding the speaker to my colleagues, I just want to say that I'll point out something very obvious, that Josie, Mel, and Tyler were each an extraordinary individual. We learned, I think, from Josie, Mel, and Tyler to live life fully. And I don't think it's an understatement to say that these were 3 exceptionally vibrant individuals. I think, moreover, that Josie, Mel, and Tyler would be gratified or happy to know that we learn as well from their deaths. I think we're all reminded of our own mortality and that of our children and our families and our friends. And I think this knowledge perhaps can guide us in the choices that we make as professionals in our personal and in our professional lives. I'm going to close by saying that I think there's no other word to describe these deaths other than tragic, but it's my hope that we can continue to celebrate the lives of Josie, Mel, and Tyler in part through this memorial space that's been dedicated to their memories. So with that, our first speaker is John Weiss, and John is going to say a few words about probably all 3 individuals, but in particular Tyler, this morning. John Weiss.
Thank you, Anthea. So the Molecular Biology Steering Committee decided after the deaths of Tyler and Josie and Mel to try to set up some kind of memorial for them that they would have use to the university and use to the students. And so the concept we came up with was this, basically to have park benches, a place where students could sit, could read, could snooze, and stay out of the wet grass. And I think it's turned out nicely. We were thinking about a couple of trees. These are already here. We may put another one in if we want more shade. We sought funding for the memorial, and we actually got so not using university funds, but from an anonymous donor. And the anonymous donor has chosen to stay anonymous, but I can say that this person really hasn't had much impact and much contact with the PhD program. But I do think that the donor would say that they've gained a great deal from their interactions with the University of Utah. And so I think this is their own personal way of saying thanks back to the university, and we say thanks back to the donor. So I want to speak about Tyler Helmer today, and then Dale's going to talk about Josie and Andy about Mel. Tyler was a first-year graduate student in the molecular biology program. Tyler came to us from Montana State. He was raised in the most part in South Dakota. Tyler was a very friendly, a very gregarious, a very charismatic kind of a guy. He had a big, open, Montana-wide grin and a very earnest and very positive attitude. I actually got to know Tyler better than I get to know most first-year students because he intellectually had stubbed his toe on the genetics pretest, and so he was very concerned about his progress through the program, and we had to, David Grunwald and I got together and held his hand and gave him pep talks and so forth. But I knew that Tyler was going to do well. He had a very positive attitude and a very intelligent, energetic desire to do well. In fact, the Wednesday before this happened, he was sitting in my office talking about how everything was going well and how he was looking forward to the coming months in his rotation. So it was a huge shock to me to find out that Tyler had taken his own life on Saturday, September 18th. That was a Saturday, and I just realized that Monday morning, looking in the newspaper, that the cyclist I had heard about who was killed in Big Cottonwood that Saturday was Josie. And so I came in to Tammy and Barb to talk about Josie and everything that we needed to do, only to find out that Tyler was gone as well. I just have to say that was devastating. I've never had the loss of a child. I hope I never do, but I can certainly understand what that feels like now. There weren't any of the expected warning signs from Tyler that he was in trouble. There was no one from his family to his friends to his academic community that had the slightest inkling that he was in the kind of mental trouble that he was. We don't know why this happened, and I don't think we ever will. I had a long chat with Tyler's mom last week. She's doing well. She went back to school, got an accounting degree, a new accounting degree that allowed her to go a little bit deeper in her career. So she's channeled some of her loss and frustration into that. His brother and Tyler were very close. His brother's gone back to school and has moved to Colorado, and his mom says that he's approaching life with a new earnestness that he didn't have before. But I'm glad to see that he's doing well. So it's good news from Tyler's family as they're adjusting. In thinking about this situation, the molecular biology program thought about ways that we could have done things differently, how we could have seen these kinds of signs and so forth. And so what we decided to really do, which maybe would have helped, maybe not, but at least is something we can do in a positive way, is to try to build a network, to try to intercalate the first year students into the student body as quickly as we can. And that was really the genesis for the retreat that we established this year. It's going to be something that we're going to be doing each year, and it was a big success. And it's important for you all who are the current students that when when the new students come in, to participate in this retreat and to make them feel at home. Because we want to have a place that the students can talk to, people they can talk to, friends they can interact with, such that if something like this ever comes up again, that everybody's going to have somebody that they know well that they can confide in. I mean, I honestly don't know why this happened. Tyler's mom doesn't know why it happened, what it means or how it could have been avoided. Clearly this was a hasty decision that he made when a hasty decision shouldn't have been made. If there's a take-home lesson, and I'll just reiterate really what Anthea said, is that, and it's from all three of these deaths, it's really to have fun with your life, to enjoy your passions, and passion for many of us, not all of us, is our science and our career, but to enjoy those passions and to try to have a positive impact on your family and on your friends and on society. And I think that the great loss that we all have is that these are all three people that would have had a huge impact upon us and upon society and upon science, and their loss is indeed great. Dale?
Thanks, John, for those words. And I'm here to say a few words about Josie Johnson. Josie came from the Bay Area in California, and as John alluded to, truly loved life and loved the outdoors and loved really enjoying the beauty of the California and that she grew up in. And when she moved to Utah as an undergraduate at BYU, really loved the mountains and loved to bike. I met Josie for the first time during the interview process for the molecular biology program, and it was very clear to me at that point that this was a woman who had tremendous potential and was very special. One of the things that we're oftentimes asked to do as interviewers in the molecular biology program is to actually send emails to the students that we really want to recruit. But I was so impressed with Josie after I had interviewed her that I didn't even wait for the notice from Tammy and Barb, to email her to come to the program. In my mind, she was a must-have. And so I was actually very delighted when she then subsequently decided to do a rotation in my lab during her first year. I moved here in 2000 and joined the molecular biology program in 2001. And in fact, Josie, apart from an MD PhD program I have, was the first molecular biology program graduate student who, number one, chose to do a rotation in my lab, and number two, actually chose to join my lab afterwards. So So in many ways, she was a pioneer for me here at this institution, as well as you know, a real catch. I mean, I was extremely happy when she decided to join my lab. But I have to give you a couple of anecdotes before the point at which she decided to join the lab. So one of the things that we do as the faculty here is something called a fashion show, which we essentially give a brief presentation to prospective students in the program, telling them about our research efforts, in a sense to attract them to come to do rotations in our lab. So it turns out the day that I was giving my fashion show, as soon as I began to give my talk, and Josie was in that group of students, the fire alarm went off. And so we had to evacuate the building. And I said, well, maybe we can't do the fashion show today, but if you want, I could sort of, you know, give you a talk outside in the grass. And everybody said, sure, we'll do that. And so I felt sort of like, you know, Aristotle or maybe Jesus. And, you know, there are all these disciples, you know, sitting in a circle in the grass outside on a day like this. And there's no PowerPoint, no Blackboard, no slides. And for about 20 minutes, I was able to sort of, with hand gestures and whatnot, you know, give them an idea of what was happening in my lab. So of course I was a little sort of bummed that, you know, my PowerPoint show didn't happen. But at the end of that talk, you know, Josie actually came to me and said, you know, that was really very interesting. And I'm actually looking forward to learning some more about that. And in fact, it translated into the fact that she came and did a rotation. So her rotation, it turns out, my view of rotations is it's sort of like a date, you know. I mean, they come and see if they like you, you see if you like them, and it may or may not work out. And, you know, nobody's necessarily going to get a Nature paper from their rotation. But there was something that, you know, Josie actually, I gave her 2 projects to do, and within 2 or 3 weeks, it was pretty clear that these things were really working. And I actually invited her back, even before we had any commitments to her coming to my lab, to actually present her data at a lab meeting and encourage her to actually skip a class to come back and to present this data. Our lab meeting is on a Monday morning at 8:45, which everybody has a class at that point, so I don't usually expect the students to come to that. But she put together this presentation and came back and presented that. The last story I'll tell you is kind of how we decided on her coming to my lab. So I figured that Josie had pretty much decided she was going to come and work for us around the time of the rotation, but there are rules here which say that you really can't discuss who you might want to work with until this date. What was the April 10th or something? But she kind of knew she wanted to come, so she came to me and said, Dale, I think I'd like to do metabolism. I said, that's nice. And I would like to do my 4th rotation in a metabolism lab. So that's very nice. And I would like your advice as to which lab I should do the rotation in. And you could see a glint in her eye because she was hoping that I'd give her advice to go do it in a lab that she probably knew she probably wouldn't want to join, having told me that she wanted to do metabolism. So I sent her over to my dear colleague and boss, Don McLean's lab, to do her rotation. And on April 11th, she came over and said, I think I've made my mind up. Of course, we both knew what was going on. And I said, oh, have you really? And she said, yes. I think I'd be happy to